Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Social media marketing in real estate provides a dynamic and versatile tool set for building and maintaining relationships, promoting properties, and establishing a strong online presence. It allows real estate professionals to adapt to the changing market dynamics and to connect with clients in very meaningful ways. I'd like to welcome my listeners in the United States and all around the world. I am Vince Rocco, and this is Talking New York Real Estate. At this hour, social media platforms allow real estate professionals to reach a wider audience and increase brand visibility. Consistent and engaging content can help establish brand recognition and trust among potential clients. Real estate is a complex industry already, and many potential buyers and sellers have a lot of questions. Social media provides an excellent platform to share educational content such as blog posts, infographics, and videos to inform and guide clients through the buying or selling process. We will have all that and so much more as Talking New York Real Estate gets underway on this Tuesday morning, very busy Tuesday morning. In the news this morning, in an unusual move, City Hall is weighing in on the competition for Signature Bank's commercial loans. The Adams administration sent a letter to the FDIC this month supporting a bid submitted by the real estate company Related Management, the Community Preservation Corp., and Neighborhood Restore. The trio emerged last week as the top contenders for the portion of the failed bank's loans backed by rent-stabilized properties. And the late Stephen Sondheim's Turtle Bay townhouse has sold for the asking price of $7 million. As first reported by the Wall Street Journal, the unnamed buyer of 246 East 49th Street lives in New York and is a fan of the Broadway legend. The 7-bedroom home hit the market in July and entered contract the following month. And if there was a mood to describe searching the Hamptons for ultra-luxury market apartments or homes, it would be déjà vu. The same properties often float on and off the market for years, tapping a new team of brokers for each stint and sometimes scoring a headline for their 9-figure price tags. This tactic is known as aspirational pricing, and it isn't unique to Long Island's East End, though the area's coveted oceanfront estates are prime candidates for what many considered wishful thinking. In a market consisting mainly of secondary homes and stifled by low inventory, stubborn sellers cling to high prices bolstered by brokers hoping to pad their listings. And finally, as housing prices continue to their relentless rise and interest rates hit record highs, a new trend has emerged among younger generations eager to embrace unconventional solutions to secure their slice of the American dream. Being dubbed house hacking, this practice involves renting out parts of their home to generate additional income to help subsidize their mortgage payments. A recent report by Zillow surveying over 6,500 recent Gen Z homebuyers between April and July of this year uncovered a remarkable shift in attitude towards house hunting. Nearly 4 in 10 new buyers deemed this practice crucial and marked an 8% increase over the last 2 years. And with me today are Ryan Garson from Compass, Alicia Rubenstein from Brown Harris Stevens, Jordan Silver from Corcoran, and Matthew Melinger from Brown Harris Stevens. All right, let's start with a couple of, first of all, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. Let's start with a couple of stats. So globally, more than 4.2 billion people use social media, and that number is projected to increase to 6.5 billion in 2025. And as I like to say, technology touches everything we do today. I mean, those numbers are staggering. 4.2 to 6.5 by the beginning of next year. I often wonder to myself, what is it that people are doing on social media all day long when there are so many other things to do? But it is or has become a way of life. It just is what it is. And quite frankly, I can't even imagine life without it. So my first question, honestly, is, Ali, let me start with you. Why are you on social media, just in general? What do you get out of it? Why are you on it? And what are your expectations?
Personally, it offers a sense of community that is incredibly fulfilling. It allows me to keep in touch with people who I may not have the pleasure to keep in touch with on a regular basis if I didn't have social media in my life. Professionally, I manage all of the corporate channels for Brown Harris Stevens, so it allows me to kind of drive the voice and the image of BHS in the social space and stay connected with all of my clients and the brokers in our community.
Ryan, why are you on social media?
It's just a lot of fun. It's entertainment. I get inspired by like all the videos that I'm watching. So I'm like, you know, it's probably bad and addicting, but like throughout the day, like I'm going on, I'm seeing what other creators are doing, and then I try to like I think of content all the time. You know, I think I always say it that in real estate, like that's part of your marketing now. Like you have to have a presence on social media, and if you could really think out of the box and be an innovator and come up with some sort of concept that can connect with your audience, can get attention, that can create a buzz, that's a big win. I mean, it's also yesterday's news because you got to keep on doing it. It's like it's just it's constant.
It's one day after another. Matthew, what is the point of being on social media for you?
I originally, actually, I was a consumer, not a producer. I only really got into producing content about 5 years ago. So I was kind of late to the game.
You do it well.
Thank you. But for me, it is really a one-stop shop for someone like me who has a short attention span to get news, happenings about town, what's going on in my social sphere. Basically, all of it is in one place. So it makes it easily digestible for me. But I agree with Ryan that it really has become a pivotal cornerstone of anyone's business, both for staying top of mind as well as increasing your reach and your sphere of influence.
There you go. Jordan.
When you ask why I'm on social media, do you mean, just to clarify, why am I a consumer on social media or why am I a creator on social media?
Both.
I'm a consumer on social media. Like you mentioned, I feel like it's something that is just so fully integrated into our lives. Like we are in this half digital, half real world space where things in the digital world are just as entertaining, if not more, than fully produced movies, television shows. So entertainment-wise, I'm just scrolling on TikTok because I find it very entertaining. It's educational, and it hits those points in your brain, that reptilian part of your brain that it activates that part of your brain that makes you keep watching, whether you are into fashion or politics or whatever it might be. It just knows exactly how to hit that part of your brain to keep you on it. So it's definitely, an addictive thing, and it's so fully integrated into our world and our space.
We're going to talk about TikTok in a minute, and it's interesting how you say it is or can be educational. So I'm going to spar a little bit with you on that in a little bit. All right, so do you gear your social media content more for business leads, new business leads, or just to stay on top of mind? You guys both mentioned this before. What is more important, staying on top of mind for your clients, for your followers, or is it that you're actually out there looking for leads? Matthew?
I think that's kind of a trick question, just because you really have to be focused on both equally. I don't think that you really want, my whole thing when it comes to social media is I want people to talk about me, and I want them to talk about me like they know me, whether that is talking about new people that are going to follow me or simply keeping top of mind when it comes to every time they open any platform, they'll see something that I put out that day, just so I'm always a reminder, I exist, this is what I do for a living, here's a couple funny things that I did yesterday, or here's something that I sold last week. Either way, you want to sort of cover all bases at all times. And it's easier said than done, but you can't really focus on one or the other because it's not going to be a 100% successful strategy if you don't focus on both of those fronts.
You're right. I actually teach social media in continuing ed in real estate school, and it's one of the things I talk about all the time. You sort of have to be out there as a person, and you have to be out there as a business person. So you've got to give a slice of both because people need to know who you are. There's that likability factor, I think. People are going to like you or they're not going to like you. And a lot of what they see in social media or on social media is going to, help them get to that point. Yeah, I like what Matthew is doing. I want to follow him again. Or they like something and it keeps coming back in the feed. Ryan, what is a trend that you see or that you keep an eye on on all the social media platforms, and how important are these trends going forward?
Yeah, I think social media is storytelling. And just like when you're selling real estate, it's like telling the story of that home. I want my followers to resonate with me because they want to hear my story. And I try to take them through my everyday life. And I break it down, and I'm very strategic about it. And it really starts with like a Sunday. I'm looking at my week, like what am I doing? And then, I really base it on my pillars of content. Like what am I passionate about? And like you said earlier, like is it business or is it personal? I think it's like you as a brand, and I really have encompassed that. I'm the very social broker. I was Ryan G, Sales NYC, and that was like a big move for me to get away from my personal name and actually jump into this brand. And I think that once I did that, it's really elevated it. But like part of my content is, it's definitely real estate. It's New York City. New York City is a content playground. It's being a dad. It's my family. And it's bagels. I love bagels. But
Who doesn't in New York City?
But these are, I feel like these are like things that now, all right, those are like my pillars. And now I'm really being strategic about how could I consistently is the key, be creating content that's engaging, informative, educational.
You brought it up, so I'm going to ask you about it because I thought about it before. So going from your name to a very social broker name, not Ryan Garson, has that helped at all, or has that hurt with people looking for you out there on all the platforms?
I'm having conversations on social media and in person. Like I love bumping into people and they're like, "Oh, I saw that video that you did," or I probably have 200 conversations, DM conversations going on right now on Instagram because I'm spending time there too. Like I'm looking at what my clients, what my friends, what my family, and I'm commenting. I'm sending them a DM. Like I'm in constant conversations. And it's just, it's a separator. It's a difference maker. Like, I think it's something that I could have a conversation about. And I also really believe in social media is the best way to be top of mind. Like back in the day, maybe you bought a bus billboard, or you put out a mailer, or, you do a newsletter once a month. Like social media is 24/7. It's constant. And it's just a great way to keep top of mind, about real estate, about where I'm going, where I'm traveling, what my workout is, like what I'm doing with my kids. Like all of these things that I'm doing are all these conversations that I could be having with my sphere of influence.
Ali, as the director of social media at Brown Harris Stevens, what trends do you look at, or do you follow, or that you kind of pick out and say these are important and we should design content around it?
So
Trends.
over the past year, Brown Harris Stevens has really invested a lot of time and resources into short form video content, which is one of the largest ongoing trends in my opinion. It's incredibly effective and impactful, and it allows to really truly connect with your audience and allow them to kind of see behind the scenes and kind of get a sense of the different personalities and brands and individuals that make up the Brown Harris Stevens brand. So that's something that we're going to continue to pursue in the new year, and we're going to continue to hopefully see impactful results from the process.
It's interesting how video used to be, and then all of a sudden it kind of went out of fashion for a little bit of time, and then it came screaming back right around the COVID pandemic period 3 years ago. And I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's necessary. I think it's vital. And I think people have latched onto it, making TikTok what it is today, basically all videos. Jordan, share some tricks that you use maybe with some of your engagement to help push out your content. Do you do anything special than anyone else out there in the world of social media?
So I definitely believe in the power of organic engagement. So I will just post consistently. When I got started, I was posting 3 to 5 times a day for like 2 to 3 months. So I was just, quality versus quantity. And that's something that I'm always asking myself, because you need to be consistent, like Ryan said. But you also need to make sure that it's in line with something replicable. So you want to find that replicable thing, like Caleb Simpson's replicable magic is how much do you pay for in rent, and then that you go and you do the apartment tour. It's replicable. So it's figuring out what's that thing that when one of my videos come up, we'll have people kind of go, oh yeah, that's his video. And continue watching. But I guess a tip or a trick that I like to use is, the hook. Everybody talks about the hook of the video, the first 3 seconds. Everyone decides whether this is worthwhile or not. So you have to be authentic in the hook, but you also have to grab their attention, and you have to make it's not enough to do, this is an $8 million apartment in New York City. Nobody cares anymore. You have to kind of make it general at first to hit that wide audience, even if it's that first sentence, and then take them on that ride of, oh, this is going to be an apartment tour. That's at least what I do, because not everybody wants to watch apartment tours. So how can your apartment tour stand out and be a little bit different to get people interested that maybe weren't originally interested in just watching a simple apartment tour?
Matthew, what is your trick? to push out your content and make sure that people who need to see it get to see it?
So I think there's a couple of strategies that I use, on more the business side. For example, what I did leading up to this taping was, you start a countdown campaign. You remind people every couple of days that this is coming up and how excited you are about it.
Share that data, by the way, when you get the results.
Yeah, I will.
It's interesting.
And I wanted to talk about that. We'll probably maybe talk about it later, how it's not just pumping out content. It's a lot of trial and error, and you have to also look back and assess what worked, what didn't, why, and then use that to fine-tune your strategies going forward. But I think one of the tips and tricks I like to do is I basically try and make my feed like my show. So I'm basically putting out long, medium, and short-term story arcs that allow people who are just tuning in to want to see what's going to happen next, and people who are already dialed in to follow along and want to keep following along. And that encompasses like the 80-20 mix of personal versus business. Because let's face it, a lot of real estate creators are doing a lot of the same stuff. It gets really boring really fast. So you want to keep varied storylines, if you will, throughout your feeds, and different storylines on different platforms. Obviously, what works on Instagram and TikTok is not going to work on LinkedIn, and vice versa. What Ryan Serhant does is not going to work for you, and vice versa. But everything from, for me personally, my weight loss journey, stuff about my family, redecorating my apartment, setting up a new listing to go live, showing them where we go from before, during, and after on a staging project. All these things interwoven help everyone stay engaged, and it also, if you continuously are tagging outsiders, pulls more in, and then they get hooked.
Bingo. Well said. Okay, and I alluded to that before. People want to know who you are, aside from your business, because that likability factor is very important. And if they can relate to you in anything that you're putting out there, it makes sense. All right, social media is everywhere, and social media marketing is really necessary in our business, okay? What are your expectations when you're thinking about content that you need to post out there because you have a new listing, because you're trying to get maybe buyers interested in your real estate business? What are your expectations when you hit that send button and you send something out, Jordan?
So I think of my socials as part business card, part lead generation. Like you were mentioning, Matthew, the business card aspect, and you were saying as well, Vince, it's that personal aspect. It's more about maybe, your a personal journey, or just about yourself and putting yourself, your front facing. Mm-hmm. Whereas sometimes, and a lot of my content more recently have been these apartment tours where, I posted an apartment tour last week and I got 31 buyer leads from it. How many of them are active? Only a couple, but one of them is making an offer today on it. So I do really utilize social media since I am a newer agent. My background is in rentals, and I've been breaking into sales the past couple years since I moved over to Corcoran, and social media has been a huge business tool for me, is what I think of it at the end of the day, and using it as a direct lead generation source.
I remember when he started too, and now look where you are, and maybe that's social media, but you have zoomed.
People thought I was crazy back in the day.
No, I didn't. But I'm thinking where you started as a rental agent, and a very damn good rental agent, and now you've really knocked down sales, beyond belief. Did social media help you do that? Was that your expectation when you first hit that send button and said, okay, here we go?
Yeah, I think I just really leaned into it and just was consistent throughout the years to really help me get to where I am today. But I will say, I'm a creative, I'm an idea guy. Pretty decent on film. I couldn't do this without my team. I have a team around me that really helps with all of the posting, a lot of the strategy, the video editing. I am not technical, and I don't think I've actually posted anything. I do my stories, but I haven't posted anything in probably years, because I have such a good team around me to help me be consistent and kind of cover the ground that I have. And I have some big ideas, and a lot of the times we're whoa, we probably can't do that. But if it wasn't for putting a good team in place, I don't think I could really be where I'm at.
Well, there are guardrails that we have to follow. All right, we have to take a break. On the other side of the break, we're going to continue with this conversation. There is so much more coming. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. As Ryan said before the break, he's changed his handle from a personal name to The Very Social Broker. He also wrote a book called The Very Social Broker by Ryan Garson. So pick it up, read it. It's a good read, and you'll learn a lot about social media. All right, listen, I want to ask you guys about, all right, let's do this first. The best social media content, okay, should include, these are the things I always when I'm teaching social media: knowledge, expertise, personality, transparency, and authenticity. Matthew, you and I discussed in an email earlier this week about authenticity. Tell us the reason why that is so important. I mean, it's one of my biggest hot buttons, and I try and stress this point when I'm teaching this class all the time, and people kind of look at me sometimes like, well, what are you talking about? Or what do you mean? And that's when I start wondering, what's wrong with this person?
So I think you actually touched on this in a previous episode, your Rainmaker episode, where you were talking about charisma, and that very few brokers in the business actually have charisma naturally. You don't need to be charismatic to be on social media. You just need to be relatable. And in order to be relatable, you need to be authentic. And while I do think that obviously different strategies and content mixes work for different people, for me personally, I really put out my authentic self. I do a little bit of curated content, but I tend to stay away from it. And my platforms and my content mix is very multidimensional. Because like I said, if someone can find something in you that they either find interesting, captivating, inspirational, educational, or otherwise relatable, they're going to stay in tune with what you have to say, and they're going to tell people about you, which is the ultimate end game. Because it's not about having 50,000 followers if none of those followers are actually tuning in and they're just scrolling past what you're putting out there because it's the same as everybody else. So to me, it really is all about authenticity. And then once you have that sort of connection with someone, even though I can't even believe I'm calling it a connection because you don't even know the person, but after that happens, whatever you say and whatever you put out there that's educational, for example, they're more likely to believe you and they're more likely to trust what you have to say. I always say whenever I meet people for a listing appointment, for example, or I'm meeting a new buyer for the first time, I want them to feel like they know me before they know me. So they knew where I went on vacation last week. They see that, I'm a big fan of animal rescues. I love my wife. I love my dog. I love my family. I'm really into fashion. I love fitness. I love going out to eat and trying new restaurants. They see all of that in one package. They also see my accolades on real estate and, any awards that I win and houses that I sell occasionally. But it really comes down to me as a person, because I don't really want to work with anyone who doesn't want to work with me or doesn't feel like they can relate to me in any way, because it is like dating when you're in real estate. And if you're not compatible with your clients, then you're not going to be successful with the transaction.
The ups and downs of dating and the ups and downs of real estate transactions. Oh my God. Ali, social media platforms offer robust advertising tools that allow us as professionals to target certain demographics, okay? Interests and locations. So how can you focus on reaching the most relevant audience through advertising?
So similar to what Jordan said, I'm a big believer in organic content. So lead with organic content. Really having a smart, attainable plan and actionable goals to kind of create a strategy that is built off of organic content would be my first recommendation to all of my clients that I meet with. Organic content is definitely king and queen. And you have to be very intentional about what you choose to advertise on social media, because advertising and authenticity are kind of in contrast a little bit, because when you advertise, it can come across as being inauthentic. And as Matt just said, authenticity and transparency are so incredibly important to building connection. So let's say you have an amazing listing or you're running a brand campaign to build brand awareness. Those are two things that are kind of intentional choices that I would pursue to advertise on social media. But not all content is acceptable when it comes to advertising.
Let's talk about shelf life. So we all know, Jordan mentioned before, people scrolling through, especially on TikTok. I mean, if you miss it the first time, you're probably not going to see it again. Similar to Instagram and probably Facebook as well. What do you all believe the shelf life is of what we advertise, what we post, whether it's personal, whether it's professional? job-related, whatever. What do you feel the shelf life is?
Well, it's online. It's there. You go through the in feed or through your profile, and you're going to see the videos. So I think it's there for forever, as long as you want to keep it there. But there's so much content that people are consuming.
Let me rephrase. I agree with you. It is there forever. But when I say shelf life, I mean the shelf life of the followers that you all have in scrolling. Do you think they're going to go back to see something they may have missed, or do they just continue to scroll?
Yeah, when I'm scrolling through and a video caught my interest, I'm gonna connect. I'm gonna go on their profile. I'm gonna see what kind of videos they have. I might follow them. I might send some comments. So I think it's there. I think it's just being creative and innovative to come up with that video that connects and resonates with somebody that's following you or that's online.
Jordan, what do you think about shelf life as it relates to people scrolling, almost crazy down their news feeds, regardless of the application?
It's hard to think about because of the different platforms. Like TikTok shelf life looks different than Instagram shelf life.
Right.
When you post on Instagram, do you keep it on your grid or do you post it only to Reels? If something doesn't perform super well on my Instagram, I'll probably take it off my grid because, like I was saying, it's a business card. So when people look you up, they'll look at the first couple things. They might not do a deep dive, but you want the first couple things to be showy, to be flashy, to let people know, hey, follow me. In
also,
so
if
many
you're
words.
posting something on TikTok and it's starting to go viral, you want to let it sit. You don't want to post again. You want to let that video flow.
Right. So there are actually ways to manipulate your shelf life, if you will. And again, as Jordan said, it depends on the platform in terms of how you can sort of game the algorithm, so to speak. Part of the reason why I'm very, very consistently active on LinkedIn, which is now, LinkedIn influencers are going to be the new hot thing, or they have been for a while, and it's continuing to get more popular. It also kind of cuts out a lot of the BS that you get and fluff, if you will, from platforms like Instagram and TikTok, because they're showing you stuff they think you want to see. LinkedIn is showing you stuff that they know you want to see because there's less sponsored content.
Correct.
But out of the 90 plus million LinkedIn users, less than 10% of them actually push stuff out on a regular basis. I'm consistently posting probably 3 times a week on LinkedIn, and I will see stuff that someone posted 5-6 days ago on my feed, which is part of the algorithm. Whereas on Instagram, if you don't get that initial hook where your followers start liking and engaging with it, and then you in turn have to engage back to keep the shelf life longer, you lose it after 4 to 6 hours. It's over and it's done, and it's in the dust. So that to me is, there's ways to prolong your shelf life, but there are also certain platforms where you can make the most out of shelf life of a post, LinkedIn being the most obvious choice just because there's so few people actually putting content on there.
I agree with everything all of you just said, and it just, reaffirms to me that social media, just like people getting into the real estate business, say, oh, I think I'm going to do a part-time to start. I think I'm going to work only on the weekends or whatever, just until I learn the business. And I always say, get out of it before you even get in it. Social media to me is also a part-time job. Okay, real estate is not, but social media is. You can't just frivolously post things and expect anything back positively. You've got to think about it. You have to work at it. You've got to put stuff out there, whether it's an advertisement, whether it's a new listing, whatever it may be, something personal about you. I always say, please think first before you hit send. Think Vince, okay? All right, I'm going to embarrass you people for a minute with some numbers. Matthew Melinger, 14.1 thousand followers on Instagram, 1,200 on TikTok with 45,000 likes. That is quite amazing. Ryan Garson, 18.2 followers on Instagram, 1,000 followers on Instagram, 2,600 followers on TikTok with 47.9 likes. And Jordan, oh boy, 22,000 followers on Instagram, 33,000 on TikTok with 2.5 million likes. I mean, in my world, okay, I can't even imagine 2.5 million likes.
But in my world, it feels very small. It feels
Explain
like
that.
a micro micro content creator. Whereas because I look over my shoulder and I, just had a phone call with a new client who found me on TikTok who has 12 million followers. So I look over my shoulder and that's somebody who's, I think, oh, they're really doing it. So,
But that's
it's
unusual,
easy
wouldn't
to
you say?
have the imposter syndrome, I think, even, the numbers, there's always more. It's the same in business, right? You're kind of always looking over your shoulder being like, oh, wait, there's still so far to go.
Also, Jordan and I, we created this event called the Penthouse Creators. That is an event for content creators in all across different industries. And he threw this event at the Moxie, and it was very casual. And I met a bunch of creators, and I ended up doing a couple collabs. And then we brought this event to my listing, and it just took off. I think everybody that walked out of that party was like, I made such an amazing connection because even in this room, I feel like we all have a lot in common. Like we're thinking about content, we're putting it out there on social media. Some of it's not good. Some of it we don't. It's a failure, and it might be a success to some people, but to us, I think we're very critical. It's like when you're posting every single day or 4 or 5 times a week, it's like not every video hits, and you really put a lot of like thought, effort, emotions into all these videos. So it's like dating. It's up and down.
There's that dating again. Matthew, explain to me when you're thinking about a video, as Ryan just said. You wake up in the morning, I need to post something today. I would like it to be a video. What kind of thought goes into what that video should be, how it should be produced? Should it be inside? Should it be outside? What gets the biggest hit? What's the process you go through in determining the best video to put out there for a particular day?
So I think, unlike Jordan and Ryan, I lean a little bit more into sort of my lens that I'm providing people and all of my followers that follow me on social media. And I really lean the hardest probably into Instagram stories because rather than a feed post, which can die really quickly, I like the fact that the story disappears after 24 hours, but I can also go into my archive and bring it back if it was really popular or share results, what have you. But what people really, I think, appreciate about sort of my off-the-cuff strategy and how I produce content is they're not just, front and center at the stage watching everything happen. They're also backstage. So they even see sometimes when I'm not having a good day. Or, no one's perfect. At the end of the day, we're all human. And I think as real estate agents, we all try and put on this very shiny veneer of ultra success, living the high life, or it's, we go for the super humor angle where it's like real estate, but it's funny, but it's relatable. We want everyone to just, have a good time. My whole presence, especially on Instagram, is very much off the cuff free association. So a lot of times, to answer your question probably quite poorly, I'm not thinking before I'm posting. There have been a lot of times where I posted something and then quickly took it down when I realized that I might have just went a little bit too far with that. But I think that also touches on another subject that a lot of what I'm seeing in terms of people becoming less curated, more authentic is people want to hear you talk about things that are uncomfortable. For example, I do this thing every now and then where I post a picture of the view from my kitchen when I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to start my day. Good morning to everyone except. And I will call out whatever. It can be a group of people. It could be something totally ridiculous. It could be something, hot button issue in the news. Last week, for example, I called out good morning to everyone except clients who have decided to quote unquote wait until the new year to buy real estate. Because let's face it, this is
At 4:30 in the morning, he's doing this. Okay,
Yeah.
I caught that.
Well, I've already had 2 iced
You got a
coffees
lot
by
of
then.
feedback.
I'm already on one.
It is what it is.
But what happened was, this is something inherently everyone in sales, not just real estate, we get this line between October and December every single year, without fail. This time of year, however, as rates were falling and inventory was still low, but we started seeing what we thought might be the bottom of the market, a lot of us have been talking about the fact that buyers really have like another couple of months before the window starts to close. So this was sort of a way to nudge people who definitely follow me, who have given me that line back into the playing field. And what happened was, as I went off to the gym and I checked my phone, I noticed that I was getting a lot of responses from brokers saying, "How could you possibly post something like this? Like your clients aren't your clients going to see this?" to, consumers and followers saying, that's so funny, or how, I can totally relate. I just told my broker that. I'm like, well, you should fire them and hire me, but whatever. But at the end of the day, what I decided to do the minute I got out of the gym was I sat down on a stoop and I recorded a 5-part, this is why I said what I said. And at the end of the day, buyers who say this are simply not ready to buy. That's all it is. And if you are in that school of thought, you need to be honest with your broker. And I left it at that. But what I'm getting at is, rather than a curated, highly produced, here are the 5 reasons why you shouldn't wait until the next year, I went that route. And that route brought more of an engaged response than putting something out there that was planned, strategized, produced, edited, and then released.
What did we say? Authentic, right?
Exactly.
Authenticity.
Exactly.
I mean, you're just being who you are. You're just being straight out there with what your thoughts for that morning were. I don't find any problem with that. Ali, let's talk a little bit about agents and when they come to you and ask you for advice on how do I deal with social media. Again, teaching social media a couple of times a month at NYREI. I'm stunned when agents who have been in the business for a long time either have never been on social media or don't know how to even begin or have really no interest. What are you seeing when agents come to you?
So the majority of agents at Brown Harris Stevens are on one social media platform or another. And I want to point out that not all social media platforms are made for every single broker in
Absolutely.
the industry. You need to find what social media platform works for you and your brand and your audience and your business. No 2 real estate brands in New York City are alike, but they are producing a lot of the same content. It's a super saturated industry and place. So what I recommend is define your brand, define your audience, and see where those 2 definitions align. And a word that Ryan pointed out earlier, he has pillars of content that he uses to structure his content strategy. I use a very similar method with my clients. Creating kind of buckets or themes of content is incredibly helpful to developing a strategy, so it doesn't always have to be spontaneous in the moment content that's produced. A percentage of it can be, but about 60% of your content should be pre-planned and scheduled. And you should have an idea of what you're going to be posting every single week so that you don't have to get up every morning and think about, okay, this is my audience and these are the people that I need to try to connect with in this space today. It should be more second nature, just like responding to emails, sending out email marketing. But that's typically where I start. But everyone kind of is at a different place in the social media landscape. There are more people that are more experienced, some are more beginner level. So if you come to me, we'll figure out a strategy that works best for you and your audience.
Just to jump in on that, I also think I talk to a lot of agents too, and if they're posting same day without like a calendar or like any kind of strategy, like they're probably not consistent. And maybe they'll post like 3 or 4 days in a row, and then they'll probably go 2 weeks without posting. And I think like that's probably like the biggest difference that like really from like a content creator or somebody who's like really, doing social media right for somebody who's not.
All right, we have to take a break. We'll be right back. On the other side, we're going to talk about the actual platforms that are available, the differences between the platforms, and how everybody gets so crazy about how many likes did I get, how many likes did I not get. Don't go anywhere. Okay, everybody, we are back. So we talked about so much before the break, and I want to get into now the actual platforms that we all use, that we all know and love. Some of us maybe not love all of it. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Okay, in your opinion, okay, where do you get the biggest bet? I read all your statistics earlier, but where do you think you make the most impact when you're advertising something or posting something, whether it's personal, whether it's business? Jordan, what platform, I guess, works the best for you?
For lead generation, I was getting a lot of leads from TikTok, but now it's transferred over to a lot of leads from Instagram. I'm still getting some leads from TikTok, but more leads from Instagram. So if you're thinking of it just as a direct lead generation business tool, that's one that I've found most successful. But there's also X, there's also YouTube Shorts, so it's good to cross-pollinate all of your
X, I'm not interested
content. Not an Elon fan?
No.
But it's good to cross-pollinate, to as many different platforms as possible, because you never know, is TikTok going to get banned? Which is going to be the leading winner in the next 5-10 years, because they're probably not all still going to be around. Remember Vine?
I totally agree. Ryan, what is the biggest hit you get from an application?
Definitely Instagram. I really like the stories. I like that they disappear in 24 hours. So a lot of the times I'm like trying out new things, but I do get majority of my views on the in-feed with reels. Like sometimes I can get a reel that can go viral. But again, I'm spending time on Instagram. Like that's where my community is. That's where I'm having a lot of my conversations. I also I comment on a lot of my friends' posts, and they're commenting back. So like there is a real community. Like if I want Jordan to, if I'm like, Jordan, help me out, give me a comment. Like I think that. Like there's probably like 20 people that are content creators that I have a really good relationship with, that we all like support each other. But as far as like Matt said it earlier, I feel like being the very social broker, like it's my business card. People already know who I am before I walk in the door. I think that originally started when I was at Halstead, like the listing video. I feel like the listing video, whenever I did a listing video and then the buyer came and knocked on the door, they kind of got
100%.
a feeling for who I am.
Yeah.
And I feel like Instagram has like just taken that to a whole nother level. And it keeps me top of mind because I'm posting every single day.
Matthew?
I think, I'll start with the lowest hanging fruit for me. I think I really need to be better on TikTok. I'm a geriatric millennial at heart.
We're going to talk about TikTok in a minute.
I can't, as much as I try, I just can't wrap my head around it.
I can't either.
Or just get that angle that really just hooks people the way that like Jordan's videos do. X, I keep my handle quiet. I can't. It's just a.
You have to be controversial.
Not getting into it.
What about Threads?
I think I'm a pretty controversial guy.
That you should do it on TikTok.
Bring that up in a minute.
Yeah.
But I will say, the answer is twofold. Instagram helps me increase my sphere of influence, but the lead generation for me comes from LinkedIn. That's where I get the majority of my business when it comes to social media-based referrals. It has something to do with my prior career path.
Yeah.
Being a former finance guy, that's just what everyone used. But I think people will, at first glance, take you the most seriously from LinkedIn without having known you.
Matthew, are you doing video on LinkedIn, or writing things, or photos, or combination?
So it's a combination. My LinkedIn is probably the most consistent, and when it comes to the 3 pillars, educational, inspirational, or aspirational, I lean more educational on LinkedIn, whereas Instagram is more aspirational and humor. But what I do is, every Monday, without fail, 6 a.m., you have Matthew's Monday Market Minute. Every Friday, you get 5-Star Friday. I post a testimonial.
Consistent.
Like those little consistent things. And then peppered through that, for example, this past year, with the backing of Brown Harris Stevens, I launched a mini-series called The 13th Floor. So that video content, and they're easily digestible, 90-second, the longest one's probably 2 minutes, bites. And those are put on LinkedIn because they're kind of funny, but they're business minded.
Because I do feel that the most quality leads would probably come from LinkedIn, just based on what all the different platforms' personalities are.
Right.
Like TikTok is, when you think TikTok, what do you think?
Kids.
Thank
Kids,
you.
young. I was gonna.
Oh, I can't wait to get into this
It's
conversation.
chaotic. It's
Yeah.
young. It's you
Right.
gear it towards a little bit of a younger audience potentially. Instagram, they all have different personalities.
But like you said, like with Instagram, from that video you posted, you had how many DMs, and maybe 3 of them were made viable, right?
Right.
So that happens to me on Instagram all the time. It takes a lot of vetting to really find the quality in those. If I'm getting a referral, I don't even call them a lead, a referral on Instagram, someone that I worked with 9 years ago on a trading desk, or a colleague of a friend, or, oh, my friend was talking about you, we worked together, and they send me a direct message, I know for a fact that's a real person, because people only really DM on LinkedIn if they're looking to refer business, or get a new job, really, right? I mean, no one's having casual conversations
It's
on LinkedIn.
professional.
I get a
It's
lot of
straight out
emails on
business.
LinkedIn that I will honestly admit, because I love LinkedIn. Every time I sign on, the amount of emails that I've gotten from the last sign-in is unbelievable. Everybody trying to sell me something, lead generation. I mean, that's all I see. Anyway, Ali, let me ask, because TikTok. Okay, here we go. TikTok. Okay, what are your thoughts on TikTok?
I think it's a wonderful tool because it does create a different kind of community that is offered within Instagram. It's a little bit more kind of raw in the moment, unpolished, unfiltered, and
Hello.
underproduced. So it does create this community that is really desirable to a lot of people. It's not necessarily our target demographic, and that's why I wanted to ask Jordan, when you compare the different leads that you got on TikTok versus Instagram, is there a difference in demographic, which I'm sure that there is. But in terms of our audience, our core audience is on Instagram. So in terms of our short form video content, it performs extraordinarily well on Instagram, and the value of the engagement is what's so important. You can get a ton of engagement on TikTok, but is that engagement valuable to the success of our brand? Not all of the time.
I don't think so. And your boss is going to be mad at me and he always gets mad at me when I say, I don't like TikTok. Sorry, Matt. Anyway, here's my thinking on TikTok, okay? It's very youth-oriented, which is not a problem. However, I don't see the compelling reason why anybody needs to be on TikTok. If you scroll, I mean, all you see is dancing, all you see is cooking recipes, all you see is people taking their clothes off. I'm like, what? Why?
It's my go-to app. So if I'm opening up my phone and I'm gonna watch something, it's TikTok. I'm always on. It's my For You page is so perfectly curated for my weird brain that to me it's not all dancing. After the algorithm gets to learn more about
My niece tells me the
works
same
for
thing.
you.
I'm like, why do I always see dancing on this TikTok? She said it's because of the algorithm and you got to reset that. I don't have the time for that. While we're on the subject of TikTok, okay, so let me ask you. It's my impression, and I think Matthew said this before, it seems to be geared more towards a much younger audience. So my question to all of you is, from a social media perspective, are these people actively really looking to buy real estate? I mean, it seems like more Gen Z folks than anything else. What are they buying?
Well, Gen Z has parents, so I gear a lot of my videos towards people with rich parents in kind of a wink and nod type of way.
See, that's why
I know
he's
who I'm
here,
talking
because he's
to.
smart, okay? But go ahead, you're right.
Yeah. So it's all about who you're talking to. I find on TikTok too, and it's whose For You page are you going to pop up on? And sometimes the more specific you get, the more it will take off if it's geared towards a specific audience. But it can be difficult because of fair housing. So it's a fine balance and a fine line figuring out, is a TikTok video an advertisement? It's not my listing. How far can you go with this? Because there's a delicate dance as an agent and a professional and as a content creator. So you have to figure out that balance.
What I've been doing is I've been doing collaborations. So I'm a student of TikTok. I love scrolling through, and it curates to exactly what I want to watch. And like one of my favorite questions to other people that are on TikTok is like, what's on your feed? Like what kind of videos? Because it's really interesting when you hear like what they're watching, because it's probably different than what you are. But anyways, getting back to the collaborations that I'm doing. So I had this 5-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side. It was, I hope I can say this, but it's very family oriented type of apartment. So I have this creator, she's a friend of mine. Her name's Christy Partia6, and she every day goes through her TikTok of how much it costs to have a family of 6 in New York City. And so I got this listing. I went to her. I was like, oh, we should do a collab video. So I had her do a listing video with her and her family, and it went viral. And it was. It kind of also, like, as far as like targeting the market that I want, it's like the exact market. And so when I show that apartment and somebody sees the video beforehand, like they kind of like get the vibe of like the story of the apartment.
Let's talk a little bit. Well, first of all, just to mention Facebook, everybody seems to have forgotten that Facebook does exist. And by the way, the only reason I bring that up is because, again, when I'm teaching social media, I read statistics that show the Facebook application actually gets the most viewers and the most followers and the most everything, I mean, by far, compared to Instagram, compared to TikTok, compared to LinkedIn. Facebook is like number one and way up there, but yet no one really seems to talk about it, which leads me to my next question. Let's talk about likes, okay? Let's talk about how we measure our success in each of our postings on all of the applications. For me, I notice that when I post something on Facebook, no one likes it, but no one says they like it, okay? Check off that little heart or whatever it is. But if you go to the back end and look at the amount of views you got, it's staggering. It's almost like people are afraid to like something in public. Same thing on Instagram, same thing probably on TikTok. You know people are looking at your stuff in great numbers. Why don't they like it? And these are things that really get people crazy. Ali, what's that about?
So it's interesting because everyone's brand, they have key performance indicators that they really kind of align with. And these are indicators that they use to measure the engagement on different kinds of content. So it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to kind of foster lead generation or brand awareness or community engagement, these are all different kinds of goals that one can have on social media. So for example, if you're trying to measure your overall engagement, you can take all the different kinds of engagement, a like, a comment, add those numbers up, divide by your followers, and then multiply by 100, and that equals your engagement rate. And that gives you a sense of the average number of engagement that you get per post. But for example, awareness and reach are better indicators for, let's say, community engagement and brand awareness. So it really depends on your goal of your piece of content, and that can determine how you measure it and what KPIs you look at to measure that kind of content. I'm curious to know what you three do in terms of engagement and
Matthew,
measuring.
do you get freaked out over the amount of likes or the amount of likes that you don't get?
Views on video content are number
views.
one.
Yeah,
for
views
sure.
are big, but if you noticed, it was maybe like a couple of years ago, Instagram allowed you to hide the number of likes that
Correct.
you have. And if you look at
I never
the
figured out
vast
how to do that,
majority-
but yes.
They still
Well,
track them though.
What?
They still track them,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
still see them.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Right.
it's not visible. It just says the last person who liked it and others. But if you notice, a lot of major creators on Instagram have that feature turned on. You can't see how many likes they have. I've noticed a lot of real estate professionals do it. And I think that it's really, and you're mentioning everyone sees your stuff on Facebook, no one likes it. Maybe it's because they're embarrassed that they're actually on Facebook these days.
100%, that's my point, yes.
I don't post real estate on my personal Facebook page. It lives,
No,
but it doesn't
right.
really do anything.
Right.
My business Facebook page essentially runs parallel to my LinkedIn. So anytime something happens on my LinkedIn, it's on Facebook Business. The same people are looking at that.
Right.
And what I think people need to understand about how the algorithm has changed, especially for Instagram these days, is it's not about likes. It's about engagement, and beyond that, it's about non-follower engagement. So anyone in this game that does not have, at a minimum, a creator account is doing themselves a disservice because you don't have access to a dashboard that allows you to analyze how your posts are performing. I have a creator account, not a business account on Instagram, because I want to be able to use copyrighted music on a lot of my video content. You can't do that as a business account. But what I really focus on is non-follower activity. So if for example, I'm doing collaborations, like how Ryan mentioned, but I'm doing them with brands. So for example, I'm part of the Amazon Influencer Program. I have a few things coming out in the new year with various clothing brands where, like, I don't care if I get a commission when someone buys something. That's not the end game. The end game is that particular brand is going to share my content. That's going to drive people to my platform. They're going to see what I do. They might think I'm funny. They might be in the market to buy or sell real estate. Either way, they might give me a follow. But when I post reels and stories specifically, I'm tracking every few hours. I'm going back and I'm looking who looked at this, because it's sorted by your followers and then your non-followers. And then you can actually see metrics for how many of those people that are watching your stories habitually don't follow you. I even have people that I can see weekly that don't follow me, but for some reason take the time and effort to look up my account and then watch my stories. It's the weirdest phenomenon. Does that happen to you?
Oh, yeah.
Weirdest phenomenon. Like, just follow me already. It'll
A lot
come
of
up
X's.
automatically. It'll save you a lot of time.
Well,
But-
even if you're not following someone, Instagram's algorithm will still
But it's the
kind of
same people.
target
It's the
their account with your content. They don't have to be following
Right,
you.
but it's the same people, and they
right.
still tune in. It's not
And
like,
they
oh,
won't
that guy
follow
again,
you.
and they just scroll
Right.
past me. They're actively looking me up, or somehow my face is in front of them, and they're watching what I have to
You're
say.
just
Yet
very
they will not give me a
entertaining.
follow.
Haters.
Just like you won't get a like. It's the same thing. But I think that non-follower engagement is the most single-handedly, especially on Instagram, important tool. TikTok, yes. Instagram, 100%.
Jordan, superstar with 2 million likes, okay? Do you get stressed when you don't see enough likes, or are you content with the amount of people that are liking? And I've watched your feed. It's brilliant. But how do you react when you don't get enough?
It's tough because, yeah, sometimes you'll get 4 million. I don't look just at likes. I definitely views. If anything, I look
Well, the
maybe
views are-
more at
yes.
views than likes.
Yeah.
So, if I get something that has millions of views, yeah, I'll get really excited. I'll get that dopamine rush. If something's only hitting a couple thousand views and that's, not, I think, yeah, I'll get a little anxious about it. Maybe I'll put it on private. So you always have that feature. If something's not doing well, it is a business card. You curate your business card and you let the audience know, your value on that card. So it's a balance between being authentic and putting your authentic stuff out there, but then also curating that after the fact. And I was just hanging out with a friend of mine who just went full-time content creator, Benton, and he says he's noticed a huge difference since he started posting 5 to 6 times a day. And he has no shame in putting a video on private that people can't see. So it is a weird, hit to your ego, of course, when something does well or when something does poorly. So it's similar to business, though. It's up, it's down, and sometimes it's not even about how good it is. It's just, up to the fates.
Nothing
All right.
sucks more than when you really, really think you have something genius and you hit that send button and you're just sitting there watching
just a
it
flop.
and it's just crickets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought this was so smart. Why doesn't anyone get it?
Well,
And then
because-
sometimes it's the algorithm. Sometimes you did it at the wrong time. It hit the wrong audience. It didn't get
Algorithms,
traction.
okay,
Yeah.
the bane of my existence. All right, look, we only have 2 minutes left. Last couple of questions. This one stumps me. How do you explain members of Instagram now asking for subscriptions, okay? Why subscribe to somebody when you can get their content for free? Quite frankly, a year or two ago when this first came out, what did I think of immediately? Is this OnlyFans? Okay? Why subscribe to somebody? I don't get it.
It's ridiculous for real estate. It makes
But
no
not
sense.
even for real estate, just as a person. I mean, I get the internet influencers who've got 1 million followers, okay? They're making $5 for everybody who subscribes.
So
Okay.
I'll tell you, the only thing that it really does do, as far as the algorithm is concerned, is it will, if you are subscribing, like if I'm subscribing to Jordan, I'm actually paying for the opportunity, if you will, to have your videos appear first. Your feed is still in chronological order, or however the algorithm deems fit. But, you are right. This is basically Instagram's version of a watered-down OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't think there's any. You're better off doing sponsored content where you're actually the one paying, so that more people will see it. But I don't think subscriptions have any rhyme or reason when it comes to real estate.
I
business.
understand, how things need to move forward. I get it. But when I saw subscriptions, I still, every time I see somebody's profile pop up and I see that word subscription, I laugh out loud. I'm like, why am I going to pay you to watch what you're going to put on your public feed anyway? Because what goes on your private feed always ends up on the public feed. So you're asking me for money for what? I don't get it. All right, listen, we're out of time. I wanted to talk about how we can monetize all of our posts. Save it for the next show, because I already believe I've learned so much during this episode. We're going to do a part 2 very soon. We're coming right back with my thoughts for the day. Don't go anywhere. All right, everybody, we're back with my thoughts for this week. As the days grow shorter and a crisp winter chill settles in the air, anticipation builds for the upcoming holiday season. Streets are adorned with twinkling lights, storefronts displaying festive decorations, and the scent of cinnamon and evergreen are filling the air, and they evoke a sense of warmth and joy. Families eagerly plan gatherings, friends exchange cheerful wishes, and communities come together and they come alive with the spirit of giving. The holiday season is a time of celebration and reflection, and it brings people together to create lasting memories and share in the magic of the festivities. Whether it's the joy of exchanging thoughtful gifts, the comfort of cozy gatherings, or the delight of savoring seasonal treats, which I like to do, the holiday season serves as a reminder of the importance of connection, of gratitude, and spreading goodwill. As the world these days is so totally upside down, we can prepare to welcome this special time of the year with the promise of togetherness, and the joy of giving is to inspire a sense of hope and renewal for the days ahead. And use social media this year, please, to send your love and your blessings. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. Greatly appreciated. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, or TikTok at Vince Rocco, or my website, thinkvince.com. In addition, if you want to email me here at the show, you can. talkingnyc@bhsusa.com. And keep your eye on the stars, but keep your feet on the ground, please. And to my viewers and listeners all around the world, from all of us at Talking New York Real Estate, thank you again for spending a part of your day with us. I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.